Hey guys and gals, I just want to run through this derivation of energy using simple harmonic motion real quick. Really it's all here. There's a couple of corrections that need to be made, mostly with K's, and I want to point a couple of things out. Starting with the first row with our potential energy of the spring, that's 1/2 kx squared, no shock right there. We, in the previous portion, said that x was basically equal to a cosine omega t, so we're putting that in place of x. And then here's our first correction to make. This should not be a big K, this should be a little k spring constant, and then we just distributed the 2 to the amplitude and the cosine. The next part I want to do is I actually want to come down here to recall this period is equal to 2 pi over square root mass over k. Solving for k gives us this, and this is the part that's going to be important here, because remember that 2 pi over t is the same thing as the angular momentum, or sorry, not the angular momentum, the angular speed. And then if we come back up here to the mass, the kinetic energy of the mass itself, we have our 1/2 mv squared. Then in the previous lesson we learned that we had v is equal to a omega sine omega t, and if we separate out our squares after we square this whole component, we notice that we have m and omega squared, which brings back this idea, which means that those two things can be replaced with k, noticed right here. So that gets us kind of our final potential energy and our final kinetic energy related to the system. We know that the total system energy is going to come from the potential energy and the kinetic energy, and then we can take those two equations from above, but again, notice both of these k's should be lowercase. These should be spring constants, not kinetic energy. And then if we factor out the 1/2 ka squared, that leaves us with cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta, which is a trig identity that ends up with a value of 1. Which leads us to the final conclusion that the total energy is 1/2 little k a squared, or entirely comes from the spring itself. The main idea being that the total energy is constant in the absence of any kind of dampening force. So in the real world we would have air resistance and friction and things like that, but if we did not have those things, this would truly go forever.